there's a full moon and the same fault had an earthquake, similar magnitude. And he was bedridden for 4 days after that. And I bet, I mean, I don't have the conductivity data, but I bet that that whole area became more conductive. And when you have this increase in conductivity, you have this bigger transfer of energy between biologic systems. It deregulates a lot of metabolic processes. So to answer your question, lay that foundation, to answer your question, when these winds come through, they're pulling a lot of that conductivity, because that's humidity helps to make things kind of improves the conductivity of the lower atmosphere. Those Santa Anas would pull all that energy out. And as a result, now if someone has a very strong, let's say, biofield, their energy is just being absorbed really quickly into this kind of like void, you could say. And that could leave them drained and tired and everything. That would be the hypothetical framework that I'd present for that.
So would you call it like more like static energy when it's like negative or low humidity, whereas high humidity, like you've been out in a thunderstorm when it's raining, you're just like your hair standing up on end and you're getting lit up by that energy. So is that a positive and negative example?
Positive and negative is a little difficult because when it comes to electromagnetism, it's kind of more just relative. You could have something that's positive. Let's say the ionosphere. It has a voltage of 250,000 volts. That could change, but that's huge, right? The outlet in your wall in the United States is 120, and then in Europe it's 220 volts. So up above us is 250,000. So that's what Tesla, he was like, okay, let's try to get into that because that's going to power the entire plant. That's a weak plasma. That's not a strong plasma. People are absolutely affected by the full moon. That also influences energies. So the thing, though, is that if you had something that had a higher voltage above the ionosphere, all of a sudden the ionosphere would now be the negative because it has a lesser voltage. Its potential is less than the other one. So it's very relative. So there's all this energy in the earth, but we call it 0 volts. We say it's neutral. Whereas if there was something that was even more like decharged, then that would be the neutral, and the earth would be considered teeming with energy. So it's all relative. It's like also something could look black, like you have some parts of the sun, like a sunspot, it looks black. That's just because in comparison to the rest, it becomes dark, but it's still, of course, incredibly bright and emitting tons of energy, but it's just black in comparison. These energies are relative, but that's still important to know. Let's say in regards to interacting with others, like where's their energy, where's yours? Or I could think of that, maybe next time I do some gardening, I'll keep in my mind the energy of like the idea of what are the energy potentials of the different plants and how are they interacting that way? Because a tree is going to have a much bigger potential than a tomato plant, which would have a much bigger potential than a weed. And is it balanced and harmonious? I like to think of things like that when I do my gardening.